Yo, yo, yo.
How you doing today?
What's up? Where am I calling?
This is Minnesota.
Minnesota. Oh, that's good.
Great to have you on, and I know your new documentary coming out on Showtime, Pauly Shore Stands Alone, and that kind of took place around these parts.
Yeah, it was a New Hope.
Can you tell us a little bit about the film, why you decided to make it?
I try to block it out of my mind after I shot it. It's like one of those, it's like kind of like a sore, you know what I mean?
It's living around here will do that to you.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like a visceral kind of, film about kind of, it's when we've all seen documentaries. It's a straight doc. You saw the Joan Rivers documentary. It's my version of that. It's me on the road, dealing with, getting older, taking care of my mom, being alone, interacting with the fans, getting love from the fans on the road, and, playing really obscure markets in the Midwest that most people haven't heard of,
So is that the reason you kind of chose this area, more kind of lower markets perhaps, or is there more Pauly Shore love here in the Midwest?
I don't know. I just think visually the smaller markets are more interesting for the viewer than, a Chicago or a Dallas, or I think, the more obscure markets and the smaller markets, people don't care as much and they're more themselves and it kind of plays more organic,
Sure.
It's just visually more interesting. I think towns that are kind of beat up and rural is kind of what America is, and I think that it's super honest, it's super honest, so.
Definitely. And I know in this film and, films like Pauly Shore Is Dead, you kind of had a chance to show people, more of that honest side that, the Weasel probably couldn't. Is that kind of therapeutic in a way for you, or?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think, the audience, from what I gather, they want to see, like, all sides of someone, you know what I mean? You don't want to just show, and I bring up the Joan Rivers thing because Joan Rivers was hysterical, like, she killed it, like, just ragging on people, doing her stand-up, and then, then she dealt with her personal thing. So I think as an audience member, people want to see all sides. So in this particular documentary, I've decided to show kind of more of a personal side of who I am and what it's like for me to be on the road. And it's not depressing at all. People aren't going to watch this and go, "Oh, that's sad." I think people are going to watch and be like, "That's honest." And oh man, I got an enlarged prostate too, shit like, excuse me, stuff like that.
Sure. So a lot of people know you from MTV or maybe Son-in-Law and Encino Man, but obviously your stand-up career goes way further back. Do you prefer being on stage, compared to acting? Is this kind of your first love?
It's my thing, it's kind of like, it's what I do all the time, and I do love it. I do love acting as well, but, stand-up is like, people, when I go out, people show up, they want to see me do my thing, so there's somewhat of a demand for it, so that's why I continue to tour as well,
Sure. Well, and I know obviously your parents ran the Comedy Store, so that's something you've grown up with forever, and, around that time, the best comedians in history, so that must have been a crazy experience being around all that. Yeah,
in the 70s and 80s, was the time when, Richard Pryor and Sam Kinison and Robin Williams and all the people that are dead, actually, I saw come up and I saw, develop and do their thing, so I was very fortunate.
So do you feel like that helped you in your career, or did it kind of add extra pressure maybe for people knowing where you came from?
I think both. I mean, I think that's a great question. It's one of those things that, it's almost like, I guess, Charlie Sheen with his dad, Martin Sheen,
Sure.
He grew up as an actor his whole life, in the shadows of his father, so it makes you kind of work twice as hard, So for me, I knew I was Mitzi's son. I knew I was the owner's son, so, I was able to kind of break out of that, get on MTV, and then star in all these films. So then luckily I became known as not Mitzi's son, I was known as, this funny, crazy guy,
Well, with that being said, what are your thoughts on the stand-up scene today? Is there anyone that stands out for you, or do you think it's thriving like it was back then?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, with the social media and, and videos online and, you got Joe Rogan and Louis C.K. and Kevin Hart and these guys that had big audiences and Chris Rock's got this big movie coming out and yeah, I think it's doing well. The Comedy Store was packed the other night. People want to laugh, the world is stand-up comedy is like the only outlet where people can really kind of get away from everything and just laugh and especially if the comic's funny, it really works out,
For sure. Well, again, that new documentary, Pauly Shore Stands Alone, coming up on Showtime. And I want to ask you about your podcast that you have now, too. That seems like something that's really getting going.
Yeah, that's, that's something that it took me a while to organize, but I got it up, and now it's out there. Tomorrow's episode is with Chris Rock. I interview him about the Oscars and his life and stuff like that, and every week I drop a different one. It's on my website or iTunes, or now I've been taken over by Podcast One, so more people can kind of hear that I'm out there. And if you just go online and just Google Pauly Shore Podcast, you can see kind of who's in it, what it's about, and the structure of it and stuff. So
awesome. Well, again, Pauly, it's been great having you on. Is there any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners with?
I'm homosexual now, and I like penis.
Ah, well, there you go.
See? You know what I mean? It all came back around.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot, Pauly.
Okay, guys, have a great day.
All right, you too. Thanks.